Well, I've just placed the last of our ornamental cabbage in our bed here. Now this bed has had a lot of things in it over the past couple of years. We have had Dutch bulbs in it. This past summer it was filled with orange lantana. Of course the frost took care of that, and now we've renovated it and we're putting in some winter color. Now on any flower bed that you put together like this, once you pull out the old plants, you need to do a little bit of preparation before you replant the new ones. We dug out any old bulbs that were in there from last year, removed all the lantana, worked it over, added some compost, and put some additional fertilizer in because the lantana plants were quite large this summer and probably used up a lot of the nutrients. So we've spread a 13-13-13 fertilizer over the course of the bed. Now in it we're planting today ornamental cabbage in 3 different colors. We have a purple, in the middle we have one that's white, and on the end a pink form. You've also probably seen ornamental kale planted right next to ornamental cabbage. And ornamental kale will have a much more crinkly leaf than ornamental cabbage, but the care is the same. They're both in the brassica group of plants. That includes broccoli, cauliflower, and regular edible cabbage. And although this is edible, you probably wouldn't want to be pulling the leaves off and ruin your design through the summer. But I do want to give you some tips on care. Being in the same family as broccoli and cauliflower, it's going to get the same pests, especially since it's still quite warm out right now. And as we plant it, we'll probably want to make sure that we're prepared to dust the plants with some Bacillus thuringiensis to take care of cabbage loopers and other leaf-feeding insects that will attack the plants. Now I can plant this a little deeper than it grew in the pot. Ornamental kale and cabbage will tolerate that, and usually you'll find when you buy them at the store that they tend to be leaning one direction or the other. If you have a bed like this that's just facing one direction, you want to tilt that towards a little further out, then pointing back the opposite direction. Now there are some, when they come in a pot, will have an extra plant growing down beside them, and that is competition, so we want to make sure that we nip that back with some pruners. Don't try to pull it out because it will disturb your root system right next to the main plant, but just nipping that back will take care of it. Now I have planted these in groups in 3 separate little triangles down the length of the bed, and they really do look best if they're clumped together in groups. A single ornamental cabbage or kale won't really look like much in your garden, so buy several and clump them together when you do get them planted. They're heavy feeders. Now I have laid down fertilizer initially, but I'll probably be feeding them some liquid fertilizer through the course of the winter time because they will tend to get pale. As you know, things like broccoli and cauliflower are heavy feeders, so make sure you keep them fed through the winter so you have plenty of good color. And as some of the lower leaves get shaded out this winter, make sure that you break those away and take them out of the garden because they can be quite unsightly. On planting distances on these, they're going to get anywhere from 12 to 18 inches across each one, and so space them about that far apart so that they'll fill in and look nice and full. Now on the pansies, in recent years there's been a tremendous development in more and more pansy varieties and colors available at garden centers, and I've noticed across Oklahoma more and more gardeners putting pansies in the fall. You get a little bit of color now. They'll go slightly dormant through the winter. The foliage may get a little bit rough looking, but come warm weather in late February they'll pick up and grow again, and you'll have color clear up until July. So pansies are a good bargain, but now's the time to get them planted and get those roots established. And the pansies we've selected are a mix of colors, and I've just blended them together down the length of the bed. They're not quite as heavy a feeder as ornamental cabbage and kale, but we will keep an eye on that foliage and make sure that it stays nice and green through the winter. Now, if you're living out in western Oklahoma where we get some of those really cold, drying winds, long about the 1st of January, you may want to put a little bit of mulch over the foliage to keep it from drying out too much. Not as much mulch as you'd put on a strawberry bed, but I'd put in enough or just toss a little bit over the top to help prevent any windburn on the foliage. But we have a nice mix here of the violets, the purples, and yellows. It should give us a lot of good color this fall and on into spring. If you notice behind me, our mums are in full bloom. Remember Ray and I buying those at a local garden center a few weeks ago, and they've given us some nice fall color as well. Well, I hope you'll decide to plant some pansies and some ornamental kale and cabbage. I think you'll enjoy them in your garden. Just make sure to take care of them through the winter time. Water them and feed them.